Hey there, welcome to WTF History, the channel where we dive into the wildest, darkest, and most mind-bending stories from the past. Tales so strange they'll make you question everything you thought you knew about history. Today, we're embarking on a journey to ancient Babylon, around 810 BCE, to uncover a story that's been whispered about for nearly 3,000 years. It's the tale of Queen Semiramis, a ruler who did something so shocking, so unthinkable, that it left an entire city cursed and her name half erased from history. Picture this. One night, 100 young men enter her chamber, chosen for what they believe is a divine honor. By morning, every single one of them is dead, their bodies arranged in a chilling spiral, while the queen walks out glowing, untouched, and changed. This isn't a myth or a ghost story. It's history, or at least the kind of history that makes your skin crawl. So, grab a drink, dim the lights, and let's step into the heart of Babylon to uncover what really happened that night, why it happened, and why it still matters today. Buckle up because this is going to be a wild ride. We're in Babylon at its peak, the jewel of the ancient world, a city of towering ziggurats, bustling markets, and the legendary hanging gardens. The Euphrates River sparkles under the stars, and the palace is a fortress of wealth and power. At its heart is Queen Semiramis, known to history as Shemuramat, a woman who's not just ruling but rewriting the rules. She's the regent for her young son, Adad-nirari III, after the death of her husband, King Shamshid-ad V. In a world where women rarely held power, she's commanding armies, signing treaties, and making priests nervous with her sheer audacity. But during the spring equinox of 810 BCE, she does something that goes beyond audacity. It defies humanity itself. This is the night where everything changes, where a queen becomes something else, and a city begins to pay a price it can't afford. It all starts at sunset, when the first of 100 young men is led into her bedchamber. These aren't random men. They're slaves, yes, but chosen with obsessive care over 6 months. Each is between 16 and 22, physically perfect, no scars, no blemishes, virgins with no family to miss them. For 3 months, they've lived like princes in a special wing of the palace, fed foods laced with subtle psychoactive herbs, bathed in oils from Egypt, their skin rubbed with Arabian incense. They've been taught to read, right? Even play music, told they're preparing for a divine honor. Some wrote letters, tablets later found by archaeologists, gushing about their gratitude, their pride at being chosen by the queen. They had no idea they were writing their own epitaphs, walking into a trap so carefully planned it's chilling. Imagine being one of them. Let's call him Theron, a 19-year-old orphan who spent his life in chains, suddenly plucked from the slave markets and told he's special. You're eating food you never dreamed of, sleeping on silk, treated like royalty. You're writing letters to no one, thanking the queen for choosing you, believing you're about to ascend to something divine. You're led to her chamber, expecting glory, but there's a chill in your gut, a whisper that something's wrong. And no, it is. The chamber isn't a bedroom anymore. It's a ritual space. The floor is obsidian, carved with symbols that make your eyes ache. The walls are painted with writing so old it feels like it's pulling at your soul. A massive black granite altar stands where the queen's bed should be, polished to a mirror shine. The air is thick with incense. The torches cast flickering shadows. And there she is, Semiramis, draped in robes that shimmer like liquid starlight, her eyes glinting like a predator's. According to Theron, the one man who survived to tell this tale, each victim's turn lasted 6 minutes. 6 minutes of horror, meticulously planned. The queen spoke words in a language no one knew, ancient and humming with power. The men didn't fight, they couldn't. The herbs, the oils, the months of preparation had left them in a state of religious ecstasy, believing they were ascending to divinity. Theron, paralyzed by a poison, he was somehow immune. 2. Watched it all, pretending to be dead among the growing pile of bodies. By the 20th victim, Semiramis didn't look human anymore. Her skin glowed faintly. Her movements were liquid. Her shadow stretched across the room, moving on its own. The temperature dropped, frost forming on the obsidian despite Babylon's desert heat. The blood didn't pool, it flowed upward, spiraling toward the altar like it was alive. By midnight, half the men were gone, and the palace was trembling. Guards outside heard voices, not one, but many, speaking in harmony, though only the queen was inside. The sounds weren't human. They were like a storm trapped in a room. By the 50th victim, the city itself seemed to hold its breath. Theron saw shadows detach from the walls, forming massive, winged figures that watched from the corners. The altar pulsed like a heartbeat, drinking the blood. And Semiramis? Her eyes burned like stars, her voice a choir of impossible tones, her body glowing brighter with each life taken. By dawn it was over. The guards entered, expecting to find their queen, but instead they found 99 bodies in a perfect spiral around the altar, their faces locked in bliss and terror. And in the center, sitting calmly, was Semiramis, more alive than ever, her presence so intense it caused vertigo, like staring into a void. This wasn't just murder. It was a transformation, a ritual planned with chilling precision to make her something more than human. Why would a queen, already one of the most powerful women in the world, risk everything for this? The answer lies in who she was before that night. Semiramis wasn't just a ruler. She was a force of nature. After her husband's death, she became regent for her 10-year-old son, Adonai III, in a world where child kings were targets. Generals plotted, nobles schemed, and enemy nations like the Elamites were ready to invade. She didn't just hold power, she seized it, leading armies herself, negotiating treaties, performing sacred rituals reserved for kings. The priests hated her for it, the nobles whispered, and the religious authorities called her blasphemer. But when her son's throne was threatened, she didn't negotiate or flee. She turned to forbidden knowledge, tablets hidden in the royal library, describing rituals to transcend humanity. This wasn't impulsive. She spent months planning, consulting sorcerers from India, priests from Egypt, shamans from the steppes. She tested smaller rituals, sacrificing single victims to perfect the process. The 100 men, the obsidian chamber, the ancient words. It was all calculated to consume enough life force to make her untouchable, a being no one could challenge. And it wasn't about greed or cruelty. It was about love. A mother's love for her son, twisted into something so dark it defies comprehension. She wanted to protect Adonai forever, to become a force that could crush his enemies. And it worked, but at a cost that would haunt Babylon for generations. The city woke up to a nightmare, and the queen they once revered was now something they couldn't understand. What happens when a ruler becomes a monster, and a city becomes her victim? That's where we're headed next, into the heart of Babylon's curse, and it's only going to get darker. Stick with us, because you won't believe what's coming. The morning after the ritual, Babylon is not the same city. The air feels wrong, heavy with a metallic tang like blood mixed with something sweeter, something unnatural. The sun seems dimmer, even on a cloudless day, and the Euphrates River, the city's lifeblood, looks darker, sluggish. Dogs howl, birds flee their nests, and the palace is in chaos. Guards who saw Semiramis are shaking, unable to speak without stammering. Servants whisper in corners, their eyes darting to shadows that seem to move on their own. The queen herself is the epicenter of this storm. She walks out of the chamber glowing, her skin radiant like moonlight trapped under flesh, her movements too smooth, like water pretending to be a person. Her eyes make you feel like your soul is being weighed, and her voice, oh, her voice is layered like a chorus of whispers, some too high, some too low, crawling into your bones and making you want to obey. She stops eating, not gradually, completely. Kitchen records show trays of untouched food piling up, yet she's never looked healthier, her energy boundless. Whispers spread of feeding, ceremonies, secret rituals held in the dead of night, attended by priests sworn to silence. Those who speak don't last long. Their bodies are found desiccated, like mummies left in the desert. Their cells showing rapid aging, as if something sucked the life out of them. The city feels it too. Animals act strange. Cats hiss at empty corners. Horses kick their stalls, refusing to eat. Within a week, the livestock trade collapses. Cows break through gates. Temple doves claw through cages. Even rats march in neat columns toward the city gates, like they're escaping a sinking ship. Archaeologists later found their bones scattered outside Babylon, as if they dropped dead in their rush to flee. The plants are next. The hanging gardens, Babylon's pride, start to die, not wilt, but turn to ash, spreading outward from the palace in perfect concentric circles, 13 cubits a day, like clockwork. Ancient date palms crumble overnight, crops turn to dust, leaving farmers staring at barren fields. The Royal Botanical Archive notes the complete destruction of species that survive droughts and wars, their carbon signatures showing they burn from the inside out. The Euphrates turns on the city too. For 3 days, it flows backward, capsizing boats, defying gravity. When it resumes, it's thick, dark, cold enough to cause frostbite in the desert heat. Fishermen pull up nets filled with fish that rot instantly, riddled with extra mouths, extra eyes. Stones from the riverbed whisper faintly, and water plants seem to watch you before sinking back into the depths. Then there are the apparitions. At first, only those tied to the ritual, guards, servants, see them. Young men with slit throats, standing in corners, visible only in peripheral vision. But soon, the sightings spread. Citizens with no palace connection see the same figures, always silent, always accusing. Children draw them before their parents do, scribbling spirals that match the ritual chamber. The apparitions follow that spiral, spreading across Babylon, forming a citywide web of ghostly surveillance. And the nightmares, oh, the nightmares. Thousands wake at 3:33 a.m., dreaming of a dark chamber, 100 victims, and something approaching from the shadows. Adults stop sleeping, choosing insomnia over the visions. The city's economy falters as merchants avoid Babylon, spooked by tales of a cursed city. Trade routes shift, diplomats warn their kings, and Babylon, once the world's heart, becomes a pariah. This isn't just a city in trouble. It's a city under a curse, a wound in reality itself. Ancient Mesopotamians called it the Barzakh, the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds, now torn by Semiramis's ritual. The Greeks had miasma, the Chinese Shaki, the Celts thin places, but Babylon's wound is deeper, bleeding something dark and unnatural. Why did she do this? It wasn't just power. It was love, a mother's love for her son. Adad-Nirari III. His throne was threatened by generals, nobles, and foreign armies. She could have fled or fought, but she chose to become something no one could challenge, to protect him forever. And it worked. The generals backed off, the Elamites retreated, the nobles swore loyalty. But the city is dying, and the queen is no longer human. Her son writes of the dark years when his mother wore a different face, terrified of her even as he loved her. What happens when a city can't live with its ruler, but can't live without her either? That's where Theron's story comes in. The one man who saw it all and lived to tell the tale. Let's dive into his account, because it's about to get even wilder. Theron was 19, a slave, an orphan, just like the other 99. Men chosen for the ritual. He was inspected like livestock, height, teeth, birthmarks scrutinized, then pampered for 3 months, fed psychoactive herbs, bathed in sacred oils, told he was destined for divinity. His letters, found centuries later, are heartbreaking, full of gratitude for a queen he thought was his savior. That night, led to the chamber, he saw the obsidian floor, the ancient writing, the black granite altar. Semiramis stood there, her robes shimmering, her eyes predatory, her voice humming with power. Each man's turn lasted 6 minutes, her words in unknown language, sending them into ecstasy, willingly offering their lives. Theron, immune to the paralytic poison, maybe a genetic quirk, lay paralyzed, pretending to be dead, watching the horror unfold. By the 20th victim, Semiramis was changing. Her skin glowed, her movements liquid, her shadow moving independently. The temperature dropped, frost forming in the desert heat. Blood flowed upward, spiraling toward the altar. By the 50th, shadows formed winged figures. The altar pulsed like a heart, and her voice was a choir of impossible tones. Theron saw things that shouldn't exist, entities watching from the corners, drawn by the ritual's power. By dawn, 99 bodies lay in a spiral, and Semiramis sat in the center, her presence overwhelming. Why didn't she kill him? Maybe she didn't know he was alive. Maybe the ritual needed exactly 100. Or maybe she wanted a witness, someone to carry her story. Theron was smuggled out by a sympathetic priest hidden in the temple of Nabu, where he scratched his account onto clay tablets with feverish intensity. His words describe the ritual's mechanics. The 100 men, chosen for their pure napish to life force, were the exact number needed to push Semiramis beyond humanity. Similar rituals appear in other cultures. Aztec sacrifices, Celtic wicker men, Egyptian rites, but hers was the most extreme, a calculated hack of divinity. The apparitions, the dying plants, the backward river, their fallout from the torn Barzak, a wound letting something dark into the world. Theron saw entities in the shadows, not gods or demons, but something older, drawn by the ritual's power. The priests of Babylon, guardians of the cosmic order, were panicking. Their sacred flames burned cold, statues wept blood, oracles spoke gibberish. The high priest of Marduk, Naboshura, wrote that Semiramis had torn the Barzak, threatening the universe itself. They started meeting in secret, using coded tablets and dream rituals to avoid her notice. They gathered evidence. Theron's tablets, crystallized blood from the chamber, ash that burned the skin, water that froze in the heat. They consulted foreign priests, Egyptians, Hittites, Indus Valley shamans, building a case against a being who was no longer human. But how do you fight someone whose voice can control you, whose shadow can kill? And why did she do it? For her son, Adad-Nirari, to protect him from a world that wanted him dead. Her love, twisted into monstrosity, made her untouchable, but it's breaking Babylon. The priests know they have to act, and their plan is about to take us into the heart of a cosmic battle. Let's see how they fight back, because this is where it gets intense. A few months after the ritual, Babylon is a ghost of itself. Markets are empty, temples silent, people haunted by nightmares and apparitions. The priests, desperate to save their city, are forming a shadow government, meeting in secret to avoid Semiramis' spies, human and otherwise. They use coded messages, dream rituals, and foreign allies to build their case. Theron's tablets, physical evidence of the curse, metaphysical signs like oracle bones and cold flames. They're not just fighting a queen, they're fighting an idea that a human can become divine. At a cost. Semiramis planned this for months, testing rituals, consulting sorcerers, choosing her victims with care. The 100 men were a precise equation, their napish to the fuel for her transformation. She did it for her son, to protect his throne from generals, nobles, and enemies like the Elamites. And it worked. Her enemies are gone, her son is safe, but the city is dying, and she's unstable, her human body struggling to contain her new power. Her skin glows in the dark, her head turns at impossible angles, her voice compels obedience. Servants report her speaking to invisible presences, her shadow strangling dissenters. The palace feels like a machine, its staff moving in synchronized patterns, their individuality fading. The Elamite ambassador wrote of a place where everyone shared one mind, yet insisted it was normal. The priests know this is a cosmic crime, a violation of the Bars Act that's letting chaos into the world. They devise a trap, using Adad-Nirari's request for a religious ceremony to lure Semiramis to the great ziggurat. It's baited with her love for her son, their only hope against a being who's half goddess, half abomination. The ziggurat is fortified with wards, sacred salt, meteoric iron, blood from willing sacrifices. The priests from Mesopotamia and beyond chant in unison to bind her power. When Semiramis arrives, reality warps. The temperature drops 40 degrees. Shadows reach for the priests. Her first words make 7 collapse, bleeding from their ears. But their counter-harmony holds her, sacred geometries channeling her energy back onto herself. They present their evidence, Theron's account, the cursed artifacts, divine signs like blood-weeping statues. The trial isn't just legal, it's metaphysical, accusing her of deicide, reality corruption, and soul consumption. The statue of Marduk weeps blood, the flames of Shamash burn black, and then, in a moment that shakes the ziggurat, the ghost of Shamshid-Advi, her husband, appears, accusing her of unbalancing the cosmos. The 100 victims manifest, their silent presence and accusation. Even Semiramis falters, showing fear for the first time. The priests debate for 3 days, grappling with the implications. If she's divine, can mortals judge her? If she's not, how do you punish someone beyond death? They create new crimes, sentence her to annihilation by 7 sacred fires, each targeting an aspect of her existence. The execution is set for the great courtyard, a public spectacle to restore hope. But how do you destroy a being who's consumed 100 souls? The priests are risking their souls, knowing they might unleash something worse. The stage is set, and the city holds its breath, because this is where everything changes again. Let's see what happens when you try to burn a goddess. The great courtyard of Babylon is packed, the air thick with incense and fear. The pyre is a marvel. 7 types of sacred wood, cedar, sandalwood, olive wood, arranged to mirror the constellations, soaked in oils made from tears, blood, and sacred water. Wards of salt and iron ring the site, protecting the priests who chant to hold Semiramis's power. She's led in, bound by chains of divine light, her presence making the ground tremble. Her son, Adad-Nirari, speaks the final binding words, tears streaming down his face as she smiles with pride and sorrow. The pyre is lit, and the flames roar, hotter than anything natural, melting bronze, warping stone. Her screams are harmonics, shattering pottery miles away, killing birds, driving listeners mad with visions of doom. The fire burns for 3 days, showing glimpses of otherworldly landscapes and the faces of her victims. When the flames die, the priests expect ash. Instead, they find crystallized bones, black, transparent, harder than diamond, warm and whispering. They're alive, growing, bleeding when cut. Throwing them into the Euphrates fails. They return to shore. Burying them causes earthquakes. Scattering them is worse. The pieces crawl to reunite. One priest grinds a fragment to powder, only to see each grain become a tiny replica, whispering in unison. The priests turn to containment, crafting 7 meteoric iron containers, each sealed with rituals from multiple cultures. The bones are divided, hidden in temples, but they're not silent. Guards go mad, age rapidly, or hear prophecies of a queen who's not dead, just waiting. The city is still cursed. Apparitions linger. Nightmares persist. The river carries whispers. But the execution gives hope, showing even a goddess can be challenged. Adad-Nirari rules, his throne secure, but he's haunted, writing of his mother's different face and a voice that carried shadows. The priests try to rebuild, performing cleansing rituals, rebuilding markets, but the curse lingers. Merchants avoid Babylon. Diplomats warn of a cursed city, and the people flee, feeling watched even miles away. The bones are the real problem, still out there, growing, waiting. The priests know they've only delayed the inevitable, and the city wonders if it can ever be free. But what happens to a legacy like this, when a queen's actions echo across centuries? Let's follow her shadow as it spreads, because this story isn't. Staying in Babylon. Babylon tries to recover, but it's a shadow of itself. The priests burn herbs, pour libations, chant to repair the Barzak, but the apparitions remain, the nightmares wake the city at 3:33 a.m., and the Euphrates stays wrong. The containers holding Semiramis's bones, guarded in 7 temples, whisper to their keepers, who don't last long. Adad-Nirari rules, but his city is half dead, his people haunted. His mother's love saved him, but at a cost he can't escape. Her story spreads beyond Babylon, traveling trade routes to Egypt, Greece, India. The Greeks call her Semiramis, a name synonymous with power and terror. Herodotus and Ctesias collect tales from Babylonian priests, describing the ritual, the curse, her transformation. Diodorus Siculus notes her shadow commanding and her prehuman voice, dismissing it as exaggeration, but the details are too consistent to be myth. Other cultures have parallel stories. Egyptian, pharaohs, Mayan rulers, Shang emperors, all attempting divinity, all showing signs like hers. Glowing skin, unnatural voices, fear-inducing presence. Archaeological evidence supports this. Mass graves and ritual patterns, palaces modified for supernatural purposes, art depicting non-human rulers. Semiramis was the most extreme, her ritual the most precise, her legacy the most terrifying. Babylon tries to erase her, chiseling her name from monuments, but her story persists. The Semiramis stela calls her Queen of the Universe, but parts are defaced as if her power was too much for history to bear. The bones remain the biggest mystery. Hidden in temples, then museums, then lost to history, they're still out there, whispering, growing. Priests reported cracks in the containers, blood seeping from iron. Modern researchers handling similar artifacts feel watched, describing warmth like breathing. Semiramis's love for her son opened a door that can't be closed, inspiring others to try and fail, leaving half-transformed monsters and orphan children. Her story is a warning. Power has a price, and some prices are too high. But what does it mean for us? When a mother's love becomes a monster, that's where we're headed next, to uncover the truth buried beneath history's fear. Semiramis was real, not a legend. The Semiramis stela, found at Kala, proves her power, leading armies, negotiating treaties, claiming divine authority. But parts are defaced, her name erased by those who feared her. Eurasian records call her the witch queen whose voice broke warriors. A 1962 excavation near Babylon found 90 to 100 male skeletons, aged 16 to 25, in a spiral dated to 810 BCE, with chemical anomalies in the soil. The site was sealed, the report suppressed, as if someone didn't want it known. Cuneiform fragments describe the ritual of 100 gates, a queen who ate the sun. These aren't myths, they're raw accounts, written in terror. Greek and Roman historians, Herodotus, Ctesias, Diodorus, confirm the ritual, the curse, the crystallized remains, too specific to be coincidence. More evidence surfaces, then vanishes. Stolen tablets from Iraq's museum, a Syrian chamber with pre-human symbols, a sealed chamber at Nimrud, all blocked by war or politics. Why hide this? Because Semiramis challenged everything. A woman ruling as a king, claiming divinity, becoming something more. Her bones, still out there, are alive, whispering prophecies, waiting to grow. Her story inspired others, Egyptian queens, Chinese empresses, Roman matrons, to try similar rituals with disastrous results. She opened a door that history can't close, a warning about power and love gone wrong. So what does Semiramis teach us? Her story is about love, a mother's love for her son, twisted into something monstrous. She gave up her humanity to protect Adad-Nirari, and it worked. His throne was secure, his reign long. But the cost was a cursed city, a haunted people, and a legacy that terrified the world. How many atrocities have been justified by love? How many parents have crossed lines for the children? Semiramis took it to the extreme, tearing reality itself to save her son. Her bones, sealed in those containers, are still out there, a reminder that some choices echo forever. And that's the end of our journey into the dark heart of Babylon. But it's not the end of the conversation. What do you think? Would you sacrifice everything for someone you love, even if it meant becoming a monster? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because we love hearing from you. If this story freaked you out or blew your mind, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join the WTF History crew for more tales that'll keep you up at night. Share this with your friends, because they need to know about the queen who changed history and maybe reality itself. Sleep tight, and maybe check the shadows before you turn out the light. See you next time.